perhaps the most sought-after political bride in Nigeria today. It all started as a rumor. Then speculations went wide that the governor was planning a defection from the People's Democratic Party PDP, on whose back he rose to office, to the All Progressives Congress APC, whose internal crisis during the 2019 elections he benefited from. The speculations were given a huge fillip a few days ago when a delegation of APC governors arrived in Gusau, ostensibly to woo the governor over to the APC. But the PDP refused to be outdone, as a delegation of 6 governors was immediately mobilized and dispatched to Gusau less than 24 hours after the APC governors to get Matawalle to remain in the PDP. Both delegations, of course, went with mouth-watering incentives to win the beautiful bride over. Nigerians will recall that Matawalle only became a governor by the pronouncements of the courts, which awarded all election victories in the 2019 polls to the PDP as the party with the next highest votes in the elections. In other words, the court judgments handed over the mandates at every level of the state to the PDP, following the disqualification of the APC. The question that arises therefore is if Bello Matawalle chooses to dump the PDP in preference for the APC or any other party for that matter, can he hold on to the mandate he got on the shoulders of the PDP, or should he renegotiate? If he stays on in the PDP because of the current pressures and the possibility of losing out in the power equation, even when his heart is no longer there, will he be a loyal and sincere party man? What does the law say about this situation if it arises? This is our focus for our first discussion, and I'm joined in the studio by a legal practitioner, Monday Aremo. Mr. Aremo, thank you so much for joining us.
Good afternoon, sir. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Well, this at this stage is still very speculative because the governor of Zamfara State, Bello Matawalle, has not told anybody he's defecting to any other party other than his own. But we know all the movements around him. We saw 4 APC governors go to him, and less than 24 hours after, or about 24 hours after, the PDP governors, 6 of them, all trooped to Gusau, all in an effort to keep their member in their camp. Now, so what exactly is the problem here? Is a man not free to choose which party or which association or who he associates with?
Thank you very much. Of course, the governor of Zamfara State is free to choose which party or any person you want to associate with. That is not the question here. The question is, if you choose to leave the PDP under the platform which you came to power, can you go with the vote given to them by the Supreme Court? Or I say, no, we cannot do that. You cannot do that because your coming to power is as a result of the Supreme Court judgment that says or that invalidates all the vote casted for the APC. So if you benefit from the Supreme Court judgment, you cannot now leave the party to APC. Of course, as I said earlier, you can move to APC or AA or to any political party of your choice. That's the constitutional provision for you. You can do that. But if you must leave without the vote given to PPP. It's very simple, and that's the point.
But we have seen the situations like that before now, where governors moved from one party to the other. Sitting governors, just like the Zamfara State governor, who received votes on the basis of the parties or programs that their parties canvassed. at the elections. The Ebonyi State governor is a ready example who moved from the PDP to the APC recently, but he was elected on the platform of the PDP initially.
Yeah, but to start
so what's the difference here?
To start with, it's not only the governor of Ebonyi State that started it. The governor of Edo State started it. Because he moved from APC to PDP when he lost at the primary. So he moved from there and went to PDP. At that stage, he ought to have lost that position. But the APC there did not do anything. Perhaps for a lot of time and the political situations at that time, they said, okay, let's just focus on, since he's not coming back, in quote, that they knew he was not coming back, that he let just be waved aside, and they let that thing go. And of course, the governor of Ebonyi State also followed. And of course, having done that, nothing happened. And of course, we are now seeing the governor of Zamfara State most likely to follow suit. The question now is this: why is it that, what is the difference between the two? I must tell you that in the case of governor of Ebonyi State, the party ought to have taken action. That is the PDP. They ought to have gone to court. They ought to have gone to court to see the interpretation whether, having defected from their party to APC, he can continue to hold office. Of course, our contention is that all my belief is that he cannot. They could have gone to court. Seeing he didn't go to court, perhaps that's what is giving impetus to the governor of Zamfara State currently now. However, there's still a distinction between the circumstances of the governor of Zamfara State and that of Ebonyi State. In the case of governor of Zamfara State, you can declare or you can describe him as a Supreme Court governor. It was the Supreme Court that gave him victory, not vote per se. In quote, not vote, it's Supreme Court judgment. And as such, the Supreme Court judgment must be upheld to the letter, to the end of his tenure. So if he wants leave, he cannot leave with the vote of the people.
What is the difference between the Supreme Court pronouncement and any other governor who got votes at the polls during an election? Matawalle also got votes at the election.
Yes.
He came second in that election. And the Supreme Court pronouncement was that the second candidate or the second political party with the highest votes, who satisfies all the conditions, spread and all of that, should become the next governor. So the votes are votes.
No, there is distinction here. You see, in case of the governor of Ebonyi State, there was no court pronouncement. It was the vote that was declared at the polling unit. That the returning officer said, okay, having satisfied the constitutional provision, having gotten the highest number of votes, and all that, he was declared the winner and was pronounced the governor-elect at that time. But in this case, it is not the situation. It was the situation. The situation was that the APC did not conduct permanent elections. And as all the votes given to them, because say it amounted to nothing. And because the Supreme Court pronouncement says that in as much as a party did not conduct permanent election, you cannot participate in an election. So having done that, so you don't have any vote. The vote he has, that is Governor Matawalle, is not for him, it's for the party. The constitution is very clear. As far as our democracy is concerned today, individual does not have vote. It is the party. Understand? So it's like our umbilical cord, the voice of umbilical cord, that you cannot sever the baby from the umbilical cord. If you must leave, you have to leave the vote. That is the distinction. So the court pronouncement and the fact that the vote given to him is not for him per se, it is for the party. So that is why he cannot leave without leaving the vote.
So he must leave the votes behind. For who?
For PDP. For PDP.
So supposing the deputy governor decides to go with them.
Of course,
that happens.
The House Speaker will become governor for 3 months, and of course, the other have to conduct another election, and in conducting another election, APC will not participate.
No, but the Supreme Court did not invalidate the APC as a political party.
Yes,
it did.
Yes,
it did not. As a political party.
At least, yes,
as a political party.
I agree.
Yes.
What the Supreme Court said was that in this current dispensation, in this our current democracy, APC in Zamfara State cannot participate in any national election because we have failed to carry out permanent elections.
Yeah, for the 2019
election, exactly. So what we are seeing only 2019 election. It has not expired. It will expire by 2023. So by 2023, there will be an opportunity for APC and other political parties to conduct a fresh primary election that will run from 2023 to whatever.
So what we are saying in effect now is that if for any reason there is going to be a by-election, whether to the State House of Assembly, to the House of Reps, or to the Senate, the APC cannot conduct primary election
candidates as far as this current dispensation is concerned, because they never had primary election. They never had any candidate. So what grant are they going to go into election? Or what are they going to contest for vote? If they give them the vote, who is going to represent, who is going to make use of the vote? They don't have a candidate. So as I said, they cannot, any vote given to them is waste.
But if they are going to conduct a by-election for any of the offices at all the political parties will mandatorily have to conduct fresh primaries to present candidates.
No. Well, in this very one that is for Zamfara State, the APC cannot participate. It's like subsidiary. They cannot participate in the subsidiary. He has not participated in the substantial primary election. They cannot participate in this subsidiary election. For if you now do that, it means that you are now bringing back the judgment of the court that says that they don't have primary. They now want to bring it through the back door. We want them to participate. They cannot do that. They cannot do that.
I've heard somewhere where the argument was made that if the Zamfara State governor decides to defect today to any party,
yes,
APC, ADD, or ADC, or whatever, and remain as governor, it will be contemptuous of the Supreme Court judgment. How so?
That is correct.
How so?
Absolutely correct. The reason is this: understand, the Supreme Court in the judgment by 377/2019 declared expressly that this vote, or the party that has the highest number of votes aside APC it was an order of the Supreme Court, should be declared and should be sworn in as the governor in that case. So if there is not going to be any variation to that order of court, there is contempt of court pronouncement, and as such it has their consequences. So for that reason, no, if any attempt to, it's like subverting the judgment of the Supreme Court, which of course is contentious by nature, so they cannot do that. That's my position.
So he's obliged, as it were, given by your reasoning, that he's obliged to remain in office as the governor on the platform of the PDP until 2023.
In the alternative, just cross-carpet to APC or AA or to any other party and relinquish your position as governor of Zamfara State.
But what would be the counter-argument to that? Because they will say, well, is free by the provisions of the Constitution to move from any party, from one party to the other, to associate with whoever he wants to associate.
Yes, he can associate. He can decide not to even go to APC. He can decide to go to ABGA. That is his right. But what we are saying, his case having been a peculiar case, we should infer that it was people that made a pronouncement making him the governor of Zamfara State. He cannot now leave the party, carry the votes that belongs to the party to another party. No, he can't do that. He can't do that because the party we are even giving it to, it will be meaningless to them because they never had any candidate. They never had. So what will they do with the party? Or he now become the governor? It's not done.
So the only difference here, because we have talked about the defection of David Umahi in Ebonyi.
Yes.
We have talked about the defection of Godwin in Obaseki in Edo State.
Yes.
We before then, we also saw situations in the past where some governors defected. We know of Ikedi Hakim Nimo, who defected at that time from the PPA to the PDP.
Yes.
Rocha Sokocha at one time, was elected originally on the platform of ABGA, and then he moved to the APC, where one could argue that at that time it was some kind of working relationship that brought them, the APC and ABGA together. But even then, there was also the Gombe State governor then. I think his name was Haliru Hashidu, who also moved from his party
to another.
what was his party then, from the AMPP to another.
Okay, sir.
And they didn't have to lose their seat.
Okay. Now, you see, this is the problem. When it comes to defection of governors, I agree, there is no constitutional provision expressly that states that once a governor moves from one party to another, he loses his seat. Understand? But you forget where you are coming from, which is the fact that a governor does not canvass for votes. It is the party that canvass for vote. Whatever vote that is given during election is given to the party. And it remains with them until the expiration of that tenure.
So the mandate
is a belongs to the party, not to the individual. So those ones who have just given out, while they went with it and they succeeded, perhaps it's because the party choose not to take action. And that's why we are in this situation. If the party concerns at that time had gone to court, seek court interpretation as to the actions of those people, by now you have had a standing pronouncement of the Supreme Court as saying that, oh, you can defend, but if you are defending, this is what must happen. It's because of no pronouncement. The parties then, many unknowingly, refused to do anything, refused to take any action, allowed those people to just go the way they went. So that's why we are in this one. So, and that is why in this case, PPP should not just allow that to happen. Understand? If Matawalle should take any step to defect from PDP to APC, they should go to court. They should get the presence of the court. Not for them. It's also going to help our democracy to grow. Otherwise, tomorrow you and I can join a political party. Once I'm dissatisfied with APC, I jump to PDP, from PDP up down, forever like that. And of course, make our constitution unstable. And it's not good for our present democracy.
You lawyers always talk about locals.
Okay.
Is it only the party that has the locals to challenge this kind of thing? I mean, given all the cases that we'll be looking at now,
yes.
Couldn't any member of the party have gone to court to challenge the defection of one governor from one party to the other?
Okay. Talking about locals here, and if you remember where we are coming from, the vote is party's vote, not an individual's vote. So it is the party that is empowered by law to do what? To go to court. The question is who suffer damage, who suffer infringement, who suffer violation of their right or privilege? Is the individual or the party? So to us, the person who suffer most is the party. It's the party that ought to have gone to court. So the party
slept on their rights.
That's what they slept on their rights. So they now give those people opportunity to do and undo. So that is why we are saying in this case, PDP shouldn't sleep on their right. They should take action. They should take steps to get the pronouncement of the court as to whether a member appointed or elected on their platform can cross-carpet, particularly the governor, to another party without any other thing.
But it can only do that only after the person concerned, the governor in this case, has cross-carpeted.
Yes, yes, of course.
Because all of these we are talking about
permutation, kind of speculation, another. Yes, to me, it would go a step further to say that the PDP could go to court, but if they go to court, would they be able to get any out of it? They will not, because the thing has not crystallized. The course of action has not crystallized. It is when the thing crystallized, then you can say, oh, the course of action has crystallized, I can go to court. If they go to court now, their case will be thrown out. That is my belief, because the man has not taken any step. It's even a speculation. And I even read on print media, says that he never said to anyone that I'm defecting. Understand? Even that, I think that was a publication by an essay, he says about that effect. But in the event that something happen, of course, so the PDP should try ventilate whatever in court, and let's hear what the court will say. It will help us.
Like you say, in case he does,
yes,
what will be the consequences of that his action?
Number one, of course, is contemptuous of the Supreme Court pronouncement in the case they are brought in. Number two, he stands highly,
so he can be cited for contempt.
Yes, for contempt, yes.
By who? By the court or by the party?
By the party. Because the person who is wrong here now is PDP. The APC cannot do that. They don't have any cause. It is PDP. They can go to court. Say, look, the court has said the party that the PDP is the owner of the vote. So for you to now want to take our vote to another party, you are secreting the production of the court. It's contemptuous of the court. That's number one. Two, of course, I say you stand the risk of being removed. Stand the risk of being removed. Well, in the event, there's likelihood that he may be the only one that will moved from PDP to any other party. If his deputy remains, of course, the deputy governor will qualify to approach the court, say, look, you have moved. And as having moved, I'm supposed to be the governor of your state, having moved. But if you fail to hand over to me or fail to resign, I have a course of action against you. I go to court seeking the interpretation again of that court judgment, saying that in the event that you have moved, I should be the governor pending the time that will happen. So that is my position.
Now, so even when that happens,
yes.
even if that happens, for instance, the governor will remain a sitting governor, and these legal battles will be going on in court.
That has always been, the terrain in Nigeria. You understand? You see, that's why I want to pause to look at American democracy. Look at Donald Trump. Just few days to his tenure, he committed a constitutional breach, and even after he left office, they still continue the impeachment process. How I wish that thing happened in Nigeria. You know, what Matawalle can just do now, you may just cross carpet to APC before you go to court. And you know, of course, the court process in Nigeria is not as fast as you and I think. Before you may spend 1 year, others are in court. Of course, if PDP should go to High Court, for example, start from High Court, before they even finish the matter, from High Court to Court of Appeal, from Court of Appeal to Supreme Court, they may have even finished his tenure. But of course, if they know what to do very well, they will not ask him that he vacate the office. Every inducement, every benefit he has gotten for the day he defected from the party to another one, he will forfeit it. If he has collected it, he has to refund to the national post. So that should be the case in the event that happens.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Monday Aremo, a legal practitioner, here giving us some insight into what could happen. What could happen if and when the Zamfara State Governor, Governor Matawalle, who is rumored to be having some political romance with the APC, eventually defects from the PDP to the APC or indeed to any other party for that matter. But like you heard, the governor has said that he has not told anyone he is defecting. Well, we've been seeing all the movements around him from the APC, from the PDP, and all of that, and that has thrown up what many have described as a political chess game in Zamfara State. Monday Aremo, legal practitioner, has been our guest. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right, let's take a short break. When we return, we'll be looking at Nigeria's security situation and what some have described as a dangerous road to Somalia. All right, thank you so much for staying with us. People, Politics and Power. We move on now to our second discussion program today. Nigeria has for several years now and from several flanks been assaulted by serious insecurity. But that situation has been heightened recently with the elevated level of attacks on security personnel, public infrastructure, and civilians alike by different groups and criminal elements. Boko Haram is operating in the northeast. Bandits are operating in the northwest, the north central, and the southwest. The IPOB and the Eastern Security Network is operating in the southeast, and of course the south-south militants are threatening a resurgence in the Niger Delta. Some of the attacks have been motivated by political grouses against the state, some by religious fundamentalism, and others simply criminal in nature. The concern here is that These disruptive and destabilizing tendencies are on the upswing across every part of the country. Over 30 years ago, there was a similar situation in Somalia, a country in the Horn of Africa. A political crisis resulted in an exploitation of clan animosities, which led to a rapid retreat of the state and a complete breakdown of law and order. Regional forces and clan militias held sway and balkanized the country into spheres of influence. Arms were everywhere and in the wrong hands, as it is becoming apparent in the Nigeria of today. Violence became the language of self-expression and self-actualization in Somalia. Various armed groups and factions competed for power and control amidst raging turmoil. The state collapsed. Not even the intervention of the United Nations and the African Union, using military observers and peacekeeping forces, could mitigate the slide of Somalia into anarchy. This was how terrorist groups such as the Al-Shabaab emerged. The ensuing crisis has claimed well over 500,000 lives, and this has been from 1981. The result is that Somalia has for so long topped the annual Fragile States Index globally. Now, back home in Nigeria, the latest attacks on security institutions and personnel in Imo, in Akwa Ibom, and Benue states have further heightened the palpable state of insecurity and concerns about agitations for a breakup of the country. Just on Wednesday this week, the National Peace Committee, led by General Abdulsalam Abubakar, raised the alarm that about 6 million illegal arms and weapons are in circulation in the country. Where are those arms? Who has them? What are they meant for? Are we on the road to another Somalia, where militias could hold sway? What needs to be done, and who needs to do that which needs to be done urgently? Well, I'm joined in the studio right now by two security specialists. First, from my immediate left is David Okoro. David Okoro, of course, is a familiar face on this program. He's a security specialist. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
We're also joined by Abba Kaka. He's a security analyst. Mr. Abba Kaka, thank you so much for joining us. And we'll also be joined virtually by Emmanuel Dafe Igbini, who is a public affairs analyst. Mr. Igbini, thank you so much for joining us.
For having me.
Let's begin with you, Mr. Igbini. I hope that you have unmuted your microphone so that we can hear you loud and clear here in the studio. What is your reading of the security situation in Nigeria today?
Well, it is obvious to all of us Nigerians that we are facing a very difficult time, never seen in the history of Nigeria. This was never imagined that we'll get to this point in our national history. Quite unfortunate. And I will tell you from my experience in politics that majority of the causes of this insecurity, besides economic factor, is political. We have a crop of Nigerian elites of today who are highly desperate and highly unpatriotic, ready to undermine this our beloved country just to grab power for their personal interest. And we have seen that all over the country since 1999, May 1999. Now they are the first to shout that Nigeria is on its way to Somalia or a failed state. It will not happen. Nigeria will not fail. We are not heading to any Somalia. If they do not change their ways, Nigerians will rise against them. I assure you of that. This is a beautiful country, and no group of few privileged elite, no matter how desperate and unpatriotic they are, will be allowed to run riot and undermine the security and national integrity of our country.
All right. Mr. Kaka, as a security analyst, are you concerned about the proliferation of illegal arms and the rise of what could be described as ethnic militias?
Thank you for having us today. Actually, I'm concerned. This is what is happening in this country today is very serious and very dangerous, especially the Imo aspect. As the General Abdul Salam Committee has said, over 6 million arms are in circulation. Who is bringing those arms and what is it meant for is very, very important question, because the trend of what is happening in the country is alarming. The issue of attacking state institutions like the police. Obviously, the police, we know they're underfunded, under-equipped, as well as the morale is low. We have a brand new IGP, and I know him to be a very professional and honest, trustworthy individual, and he means business. But what about the capacity? Do they have the capacity to deal with what is really happening? Let me give you an example of the NSAS protests that happened a few months ago. This is exactly the fallout of what really took place. Obviously, there are some bad eggs in all organizations, including the police. What we need to do is to fish those ones out, but not to condemn the institution. Actually, I'm calling for a state of emergency to be declared in Imo State, because the trend is very dangerous. The trend is going to consume all of us if left unattended, because this is the only country we have. This is a beautiful country. This is a rich country, but there's a lot of injustice in the country, a lot of corruption in the country. And the government seems to be acting very slow, a slow motion. This is a serious security breach. IPOP or politicians who are using them need to understand that whoever rides on the back of a tiger, the saying goes, will end up in the mouth of the same tiger.
It's not been established so far that IPOB or indeed ESN was responsible for the attack on the government institutions in Imo. At least no conclusive investigation has proven that yet.
The DSS has warned the police about 3 times on this issue of the impending attack. They got information. They have security information, intelligence information. But the point is the lack of capacity in the police is so obvious. Our military is also overstretched in Nigeria. In over 31 states, the military is doing police work with the limited number of arms and ammunition in their hands. So the issue is we have to go back to the drawing board and then try and find out what are needed to fight this war.
Okay. Mr. Okoro, over 6 million illegal arms floating around in Nigeria. Well, just yesterday there was again another very disturbing story of 11 personnel of the Nigerian military attacked and killed in Benue State. I mean, an indication that yes, those who are carrying out these killings and attacks are very well armed. I mean, where is that going to lead us as a country? What do we need to do? What immediate steps do you think we need to take to at least mitigate this situation?
I think that Nigeria is at a crossroad. And what concerns me is the fact that the police in any country is the guarantor of the sovereignty of that nation. And so when the police or the military become targets of criminal elements who succeeds in their acts, it is a sign that that state is weak. So weak, and the institutions are so weak that criminals can take up the state institutions like the police and have their way. I was distraught when I was in Imo when this happened, and that it was possible for a long convoy to drive over a long distance and come to the city center and carry out that kind of dastardly act in front of the government house.
Unchallenged for about 2 hours.
Completely unchallenged,
Yes.
completely unchallenged. So you ask yourself, there's a fundamental problem. The issue of capacity is there. The issue of will to act. Who wants to die for Nigeria? Do the military and the police still feel that patriotism to put their life at stake? Because you ask yourself, in that state, why that happened, we had all manner of military units. We have special forces in the police, special forces in the army. We have the mobile police unit. We had everything that had the capacity to put down that attack. But nobody came out until the attack was over. So what he says to you is that we're having a big problem. Now, people might clap. Some people might clap for what has happened, that yes, it serves them right. But what this means for me and you is that the institution of state, like the police that is meant to protect you and I, are degraded. Weapons are taken from the police. In addition to the weapons you are hearing flying around, are taken from the police and given to criminals. And so if we clap today as to what has happened, tomorrow the criminal comes for the citizens. Who will protect them? The arms that were taken from the police are going to travel around the country. It's not just going to be in Imo State. Look, you had criminals locked up. About 1,800 criminals in the correctional center. Another set from the 4CID in the state. They are released into society. What do you think is going to happen? There's going to be a spike in crime, and they have arms that they have taken from the police. So we are in a dire strait. But as I've always said, the security situation we are seeing is a symptomatic sign of something else. The decadence in the political situation in the country, the willingness of the leadership to do what is right. My friend have spoken about declaring a state of emergency in Imo. I wouldn't go that way. There is a cause to the kind of insecurity we are seeing in that part of the country. A lot of people have talked about the issue of injustice. Whether it's IPOB or ESN or wherever, it says that there's injustice. Are we listening to them? Are we listening to the cry of the people from the southeast? Or we are thinking that this cry will just go away, or we will use state power to quell them? But it's becoming clear now that we cannot use state power anymore to intimidate or quell people, because non-state actors are developing capacities to confront our security establishment and win. And so when you have non-state actors, look, I went around the state. So some places I saw relics of police vehicles and all that were damaged by criminals at different times.
There have been different attacks. I mean,
Good.
a number of other attacks even after that.
Good.
We have seen 2 or 3 more police stations attacked after that. Some traditional rulers and chiefs have been abducted.
Yes. Yes.
And then, of course, the situation that arose yesterday in Benue State, where military personnel were not only attacked but killed.
They're killed. So it tells you that the state is weak. But what I would think that the primary thing is that leadership should listen. Let's listen. People complain of injustice. People complain of being abandoned. People complain of nepotism and religious segregation. What Nigeria needs now, see, it is not possible anymore where we are to think that you use military might or security might to address the crisis that we're having. Where do you want to start? Is it in the southwest where people are agitating for separation? Is it the southeast? Is it in the north? Where now will you apply the former state strength to address this issue? So the option left for government is to talk to the people. What is their grievances? I know that, for instance, the Minister of Information had said all the time that nothing was happening. But I listened to him yesterday. I think that everybody is now seeing the fowl is coming home to roost. So, but just like you said, what do? We need to as a people talk. What are the concerns of our citizens? What are the concerns of the component unit of Nigeria? What is their concern? Let us be humble. Let us address it why it is still possible before it becomes too late.
All right, Odafe, I do not intend, or we do not intend to sound alarmist, but historians will point to the fact that, well, this was how it all started in Somalia. And then, of course, it degenerated into militia groups, regional, clan, and all of that. And that in the Nigeria of today, where you have well over 6 million arms, illegal arms floating around, and then these other elements are beginning to pick up arms from government security agencies and all of that, that we just might be facing up to a very, very dangerous situation. What do you think, where do you think these arms are coming from, one, and what do you think government needs to do, the state needs to do at this point in time to bring these non-state actors to some realization of the fact that we have a nation?
Thank you very much for those two questions. First, the arms are coming from outside this country because in Nigeria we do not produce arms. You know that even the DIC in Kaduna is not yet able to produce arms. So they are coming from outside. And who is bringing them? I've said it earlier. Majority of the desperate elites in politics and even in business, they are responsible. When the issue of gold mining came up recently in Zamfara, and the federal government made a pronouncement allowing some people from that state to freely mine gold, I shook my head and I said, oh God, who is advising my dear president? We all know that precious metals like this, they are raising so many countries are in crisis till tomorrow. Go to Congo and other places. Ditto the crude oil. How do you leave such thing in the hands of people to say, oh, anybody can go there and you are going to assist? These people are going to make money, and some desperate people are going to fly in to arm them to protect their territory in order to have free access. Illegal mining of gold has been on, but not to this level that federal government will now make a public pronouncement supporting it. That was a big blunder. And it didn't take long. The Zamfara State government started shouting that the gold mines are responsible for most of the crisis in Zamfara State and the Northwest. And we heard reports even from the federal government saying that certain persons are using their private jets to fly in deadly weapons for these so-called artisanal miners in order to help them, pave the way for illegal mining of gold. Ditto the crude oil. So we know that politicians are, those of us who play politics without fear of God and not patriotic. Until we deal with such kind of persons and deal with them as terrorists themselves, because those who kill, whether it be Boko Haram or the politician that is desperate and arming, we all know that in the so-called elections we conduct, it is guns, arms given to these boys. You go to police station, they allow you to cast your vote, and just before collation, their boys will come with their arms and then chase everybody away, destroy, kill the one they can kill who attempt to resist them. We saw these things. And that's why I not believe that we ever had a general election. With due respect, I participated in 3 as a governorship candidate in my state. But I can tell you that I have never seen. I've been around since 1990 as a union leader, and I can say without fear of favor, I've never seen one. Not one. All this we talk about election is a big problem. It's not election. Now, let me quickly address my brother who talked about his calling for state of emergency in Imo State. I want to ask you, did you call for state of emergency in Borno State and some state of the Southeast, where even the president and commander-in-chief of the armed forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari, publicly said and admitted that most of these people who are coming in now are external forces who have invaded our country. Senior military officers said it openly, not once, not twice, that our nation is at war, that external forces have declared war on us. I kept calling that let there be a state of emergency in those areas, not the entire Borno State or Yobe, where these external forces have invaded and are committing all the atrocity. Let there be a state of emergency so that our troops can move in there to flush them out. But politicians will not allow, because they know what they are doing. They know that during election, they bring these people from across the borders to cast vote for them, or so-called votes. Now, we talked about the issue of, I want to address my other brother. I talked about injustice. That cannot be a justification, my brother. Let's not go sentimental, with due respect. There is injustice all over the country, perpetrated by the select elite from all over the country. I'm an honorable man. There is injustice perpetrated also by an honorable person against another. So it's a clique. That cannot be a justification. We must return to the Constitution. Section 305 is very, very clear. Section 305, subsection 3, says clearly that the president shall, it is not may, it's mandatory. When the president sees credible information, as he has seen, that our country is at war, the federation is at war, or any part thereof, he has no option but to proclaim war so that our forces can move in. Uncle Amare, you just told the story of how 11 Nigerians in the armed forces were killed by some sort of criminals. And you want me to believe that those criminals are more armed than Nigerian armed forces? No, please. The story being told, or the report that the Boko Haram or whatever name called, they are more equipped, more sophisticated, that is not true. I am telling you, and we all know it, that if the president of Nigeria declares a state of war, full war, and allow our troops to move in, we are going to clear them within days. Just imagine that the Air Force plane has been shot down. Until now, we are still foot dragging. Nobody wants to get it. They say our armed forces are afraid. That is an insult on our armed forces. We are well equipped. It is the political will that is not there for them to move in.
All right. Let's get some response from Mr. Kaka. Yes, so some of these issues. He has raised quite a number of issues. I want you to respond to so. And then, of course, I also need you to begin to profile solutions. What do we need to do at this stage so that we can steer ourselves and our country away from this dangerous road that we seem to be treading?
Okay. Actually, security is everybody's business. The police alone and the military alone cannot provide adequate security 100% of the time to all of us. So we are all supposed to be part of the network of security. What is happening all over the country is, of course, alarming. The solution is to aggressively fund the police, even if it means we have to go back to the National Assembly and get a special budgetary allocation for the police and other security outfits. Mr. Omori, the whole of the Nigerian security architecture is less than 1 million personnel, policing over 200 million people. Practically, you can clearly see that there's an inadequacy of security from the beginning. So we need massive employment into all the arms of the security agencies, the police, the military, and the paramilitary. And as I said, security is everybody's business. So we have to get involved from each state of the federation. Then we have to start answering the question of injustice. As my friend said, is the government listening to the injustice, the cries of injustice from most parts of the country? The answer is clearly no. If the government is listening, then this security breakdown, what is happening in Imo is a security breakdown. Apart from attacking police stations, the dangerous trend is that they are also attacking prisons, and convicted criminals are being released. And this thing started right from when the NSAS movement started, if you can clearly see. Obviously, the police and the SARS in most parts of the country, they were doing a good job. In some parts of the country, some of them, the bad eggs have become something else. But what we did instead of fishing out the problem areas and then keeping the good ones. Like in the northeast, let's say Borno State, for example, where the bandits and the Boko Haram are fighting. The NSAS and the police crack team, those two are the worst enemies of the Boko Haram. And they have been doing incredibly well, especially in Borno State. You understand?
I hope we didn't throw away the baby and the bathwater.
Which is what we're exactly. We hope so. We hope so.
Mr. Okoro, very quickly, so we have limited time now. Now, is the cry of injustice enough reason for us as a people to destroy our nation?
Of course, I won't say so, but somebody says people who make change impossible.
Peaceful
change impossible, of course, are asking for the alternative. So if the people for a long time feel there is injustice, they've spoken, and no, I'm not justifying any crime, I'm not justifying nothing, but if people feel that they have been left out by government and that government was not listening like he says, what is left for the people to do? So that is why I said we need to go back and talk to ourselves. And government should listen.
So where is the place of dialogue?
Yeah, this government is not listening. Everybody is saying it. Government is not listening. So government need to, if you say where do we start, is dialogue. Dialogue, we need the police, where there are injustice. In the police, in posting, in recruitment, in promotion, there is injustice. In the military, there's. So you are asking a man who feel unjustly treated to go and die. He will think twice. So that's why you see, you ask, why are the military not responding? Why is police not coming forward? What is happening to Nigeria? There is injustice in the system. But as I round up, just to say that it's not everybody in the security service sector that are not doing well. There's a lot of people that are committed. I particularly want to praise the DSS. They're doing a good job. They continue to provide, if you know, they continue to provide timely, accurate information. I mean, intelligence. It has always been the problem of those who will take over from there, the response agency. So there are issues, but like I said, Nigeria need to talk. We need to sit down and talk and realistically talk, and those who lead us should listen to the cries of Nigerians.
Thank you so much. I wish we had a lot more time to delve into these issues, but of course, everyone must be concerned about these developments and the dimensions that are beginning to emerge. I mean, I was reading somewhere a day or two ago of explosives being found in a primary school classroom in Abia State. That's a dangerous dimension to all of this, where maybe criminals and disgruntled elements begin to target our children in schools. Then, of course, we are all not safe. We have one country called Nigeria, and we must do everything possible to make sure that that country is not only safe and secure, but remains united. Gentlemen, I want to thank you immensely for your time here. Abba Kaka is a security analyst, and David Okoroyo, a security specialist, a regular face here on our program. Thank you so much for coming. And Emmanuel Odafe Igbini, a public affairs analyst. He joined us virtually from Warri in Delta State. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much.
All right, please join us again next time when we bring you a fresh edition of People, Politics, and Power. I am Imoni Amarere. Bye for now.